Hey guys, it's a beautiful day. We're in a beautiful neighborhood in Palos Verdes, California, and I'm checking out the new Bosch Cross Mover Speed. They've done more and more of these high-speed 28-mile-per-hour Class 3 pedelecs, and for 2018, I love that they're continuing this beautiful integration of the motor, which sometimes you see the Bosch motors, they have a big plastic casing. It's kind of like a circle. This one, it's tilted up a little bit. It might shorten the chainstay reach a little bit. It gives it a little bit of a sportier feel, and it just blends it into the tubing, the down tube, seat tube. And the battery, same thing. See how the motor casing flows up into this battery pack and then the rest of the frame. This is the Bosch Power Pack 500. We are seeing some Bosch bikes with the integrated power tube design, but I think this is kind of cool because there are a lot of these older Power Pack 400s that are still on the market. Some people might already have one of them on an existing bike, and it's backwards compatible. So you could potentially double your range if you had like another battery pack. I also like that this one has like a handle loop on top, and it's black. It blends in with this dark gray, glossy black frame color. The frame actually comes in 3 different styles. So you get the really low step that they call wave, this sort of mixedy mid step that they call low step or step through, and then they also have high step diamond. So depending on your style, maybe you're a guy and you want that high step kind of a masculine triangular look, or you're maybe a guy or a girl that's feeling like, okay, I want to have a bit more approachability on this, not have to lift my legs so high, but I want frame stiffness and I want that performance, especially for a speed pedelec, then this mixedy mid-step is going to be a great option. Or if you're someone who says, I want higher speed, but I don't want to lift my legs so high, and maybe you want the smallest frame size, then that step-through wave is a really good option. So the fact that they've got those, 4 different sizes across 3 different styles of frames is just so cool to me. The bike, this one that I'm measuring here, it's a medium-sized frame. It's the mixedy mid-step, and it weighs about 53.6 pounds. So not too bad considering that it has a suspension fork, fenders, and integrated lights, as well as this carry rack. So this would be a perfect commuter in my opinion, but it doesn't really skimp on comfort. We've got this gel Celi Royale looking saddle. It's a little bit wider, and it felt pretty good to me. The Suntour NEX suspension fork, I believe this is like 63 millimeters of travel. It's a little bit narrower, definitely more of an urban suspension fork versus mountain. It's a coil, so there's no air. It's not air suspension. It's got a spring inside. It weighs a little bit more, but maybe it doesn't require as much adjustment and tuning as an air fork, and it's going to save some money. This bike, it retails for $39.99, so about $4,000. So for that money, you're getting high-speed performance, multiple sizes. Bosch has a whole range of dealers across the United States. They're going to be able to give you support. Bosch offers sort of this comprehensive 2-year warranty that Bosch also carries through with their components and stuff. And then the frame is 5 years. So you're getting pretty good support in that as well. And that's part of where the pricing comes in. That's why these are a little bit more expensive than some of the other brands. But I actually think that Bosch is one of the higher values when you look at like Bike or Reese & Mueller. I think of it as like kind of in that category of nicer, and they tend to have these really sporty designs. Tapered head tube, so if you wanted to upgrade that suspension fork to do an air fork or just some other design, maybe a loft fork or something, there's all kinds of options, and you could do it because it's 1 1/8 to 1.5 inches down here versus just a straight 1 1/8. Definitely loving that. Compression adjust with lockout on this side, and then you can actually take that cap off and mess with preload adjust, but it's just like a clicker thing. You use a penny or whatever, and it's kind of tough to get that cap off, but I did it. There is an adjustment there. These wheels, the wheel size is a little bit more efficient, 700 by 38C. That equates to 28 by 1.5 inches. Once you get to 2 or maybe even a little bit above 2, 2.25, it gives you a little bit more comfort and stability. But this bike did feel stable. I was riding with no hands. I was riding at high speed, and it felt comfortable. I think the weight distribution is pretty good because they've got the battery low and center along with the motor. Some of the other Bosch bikes, they have like the Cruiser E. It has a rear mounted battery. And, with more weight up and towards the back, it just didn't feel quite as stable as this. But that uses the active line motor. It's not nearly as zippy as this, and you're only able to reach 20 miles per hour versus 28 on this. So the Performance Line Speed can put out up to 63 Newton meters of torque. It's very capable. I like that they include this plastic chain cover. So if you are getting that mid-step or even the wave frame, you know, your pants or your skirt, it's not going to get gunked up and maybe even snagged on that chain. We've got these anti-slip pedals. They're kind of a plastic alloy and then with a little bit of a rubber grip tread on them. 170 millimeter cranks, 22 tooth sprocket up front, and because this is a performance line motor, that sprocket spins at 2.5 revolutions for every crank revolution. So there is a gearbox in there, and there's maybe a little bit of friction when you're pedaling to get that conversion, that reduction gear happening. It's not a big deal in my experience. I actually kind of like it. It's very zippy, but it does produce a bit more noise than some of the active line motors. It's what you would expect with a performance line, especially the Speed. And then back here, you've got Shimano SLX 10-speed cassette. Great range on this thing, but it's, you know, it's definitely geared to be faster. So I'm actually right now I'm in the lowest gear, and that felt all right for climbing, and I definitely like to start in the lower gears and then shift up to empower the motor, make it efficient. But for like really steep climbing, if you're doing a lot of climbing, it might not be quite as low as it could be. The trade-off is you want to have those high gears so that you can reach and maintain 28 miles per hour. So it's always a trade-off, and I think 10 sprockets is pretty good. Shimano SLX, it's between Dior and XT, so it's definitely up there. And then the trigger shifters up front give you two-way action, so you can pull it back or push it, and then multi-clicks on the lower speed there. So that's nice. Also, the cockpit up here is pretty clean because they're using the Bosch Purion, the smaller display. And there's a riser here for the stem, so it brings it up. And then you've got adjustable angle, 0 to 60 degrees. So you could really bring that up and back and have kind of like a Dutch riding position, or angle it forward and be a little bit more aggressive. It's pretty far forward right now. I'm at 10% or 10 degrees. And it still feels a little bit upright. So I rated this as like forward or upright, depending on, you know, what kind of body position you want to have. Ergonomic rubber grips, they're not locking, they're a little bit cheaper, they're from Velo, but they feel decent. Flick bell. The brakes on this, you know, it's another important feature considering that you can go a bit faster, especially if you have some extra gear or maybe a little bit more weight. You want to be able to stop smoothly and not struggle to do so. So these are, I think, about 4-finger levers, and they actually have a little kind of a switch built in that activates the brake light. So I'm looking at a US model right now. I can turn off the lights, which is nice. A lot of European bikes, they're always on if it's a Speed pedelec. But the neat thing is once they are turned on and you pull that brake lever, the backlight actually illuminates. So I'm going to turn on the display real quick here. It boots up very quickly. I'm going to hold the plus button. That turns lights on. And now I'm going to pull that brake lever. See that? Pretty cool. So that's going to make you a little bit more visible to cars if you're going fast. And there is a headlight as well. It's a Fushan 170, so it's a little bit brighter. Some of the cruiser bikes and the active line motorbikes have like a 130, so I think it has higher lumens, maybe 170 lumens. It's a bit more of a B scene light, and you'll notice it's mounted on the bridge of the suspension fork. So if you're going over rough terrain, I'd prefer to have the light mounted on the bike, on the steering tube or maybe the handlebars, because then it's suspended. Whereas where it's at right now, if you're going over bumpy terrain, it's going to bounce up and down. But it's mounted really well, and it is adjustable in terms of kind of aiming it up and down. And then the other visual cues here are the reflective sidewalls on these tires. So these are the Schwalbe Marathon Plus. They do have Performance Line Smart Guard, so that's puncture resistant. They're a little bit thicker where the tread is, so you're not going to get flats as easily. If you do get a flat, it's pretty easily to service this bike because there's quick release front and rear, 9mm skewers. So looking like 100mm hub spacing up front, 135 in the rear. Pretty standard stuff. And we've got that heavy kickstand, stays out of the way of that left crank arm. Just a good setup, kind of what I'd expect to see. And then back to these brakes, 180mm rotors front and rear with these nice dual piston calipers. I just feel like Magura is a bit of an upgrade, and these levers are really nice. They've got that big ball on the end. That's another European requirement, so your hands don't slip off or anything. So they really take higher speed bikes seriously over in Europe, and we're getting some of the trickle down here. I like that in addition to these plastic fenders, we've got bottle cage boss mounts, and we've got this rear rack with a sort of external pannier blocker that doubles as a hanger for if you want to hang your panniers on there. So it's just a nicer setup. Pretty decent rack, keeps the light out of the way, so if you have a trunk bag or panniers, it's not going to get blocked. And we even have a really great reflector right here under the saddle. But keep in mind, if you're wearing a coat, the coat can kind of slough over, or maybe you've got a bag and then that reflector's going to be obstructed. So the light back here, this is a top line from Bush & Mueller. It's a Line E brake, and it's got 2 LEDs. A lot of these rear brake lights I see only have 1, and it's mostly reflector. It's not quite as bright. So that's another little upgrade. Lots of upgrades on this bike. If I was getting this and riding it regularly, you know, I'd appreciate the ergonomics of that handlebar, even though it's straight, being able to adjust it up a little bit. I'd appreciate that suspension fork, even though it's maybe a little bit cheaper. It gets the job done for this type of application. And then the seat post. This is 31.6 millimeter in diameter. I would probably add a thud buster or a body float or something just to create more of a full suspension feel, because these tires are a little bit more efficient. Being 28 inches, you know, that's wider. That's like a road bike or city bike width, and it's going to give you nice rolling momentum, a lower attack angle, so you can just roll over things instead of kind of falling into them with a smaller wheel size. But they just aren't like the balloon, you know, big, comfortable. They don't have as much air volume. So it's a trade-off, weight, efficiency, and all that. And I feel like suspension seat post is one little thing you could do if you're sensitive and you're riding fast and far to make this bike feel a little bit more comfortable over the long term. So I think that's a pretty good look. Definitely a lot to appreciate with this bike. And I wanted to talk about that battery design again. You know, coming back to the motor, it's high performance. It's a little bit louder. It's definitely quick. It's capable, and it's going to get great range as long as you shift appropriately because of that wide range of gears, and because it's empowered by the gear you choose. If you're climbing, you're in a low gear, you're helping it, and it looks like 36 tooth is the largest gear for low, and then 11, which is fairly traditional. But that 22 tooth up there, that's the big thing. Bosch also has like a 20 tooth, or even all the way down to like 17 or 15. So the smaller sprockets they use for mountain biking, and this is one of the bigger sprockets for high-speed motor. That motor, the control system, is listening to rear wheel speed. There's like a magnet right here and a sensor. It's listening to pedal cadence and pedal torque 1,000 times per second. So it's smart. It even has shift detection. So it's measuring, like, you know, your pedal stroke torque, but then it's also listening for any little blips in the torque that the derailleur might be causing, so it eases off a little bit. I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, you know, I end up shifting a little bit more with these mid drives, and that ends up empowering the bike, being efficient, and giving you more range. And with the Bosch Power Pack 500, this is a 36 volt 13.4 amp hour battery. It's pretty sizable, and you know, they estimate around 40 to like 90 or 100 miles per charge. That's excellent range. But when you're on a speed pedelec and you go above 20 miles per hour, it really starts to cut into the range. So sometimes I feel like it's a bit of a stretch, especially if you're heavier, you're going up hills, you're going fast. Just keep that in mind. I think you should be able to get at least 30 miles, but maybe it's more like 30 to 60. And then if you're using the lower levels of assist, well, then maybe up to like 70 or 80. And then coming back to the way the battery is positioned, I turned off the bike. I've got the keys right here, and it is an ABIS key. So there's actually like a security code on the back here. I'm trying to cover it up. And you can use that to get a folding lock that matches. So you can use the same key, and you can mount the lock right here or put it in your bag. It's just a nice setup. ABIS has, you know, they do a pretty good job. So inserted, let's see here. Turn it like that, and then it pops up. So you can see it's a little bit tight on this mid-step frame. It's still very doable. You just pull it off. This weighs about 5.7 pounds, 5.8 pounds. It's got a little LED charge level indicator on the side, so you can see how full it is if maybe you're storing this somewhere that's cool and dry, whereas the bike might be out in a shed or in a hot garage or something like that. Batteries are gonna do the best if you can keep them in that cool, dry location. And then you've got the readouts on the bottom, the charging port. It's doubled on the frame, so you can use the same charger to charge on or off the bike. And as someone who commutes, a lot of times I'll leave the battery on the bike, park it in my garage at home, and then when I get to work, I'll take it off just like this. I'll carry it by the loop, and I'll take it to my desk, and I'll use the charger to top it off so I can get home and in great shape. And then listen for that click. You really want to make sure. There it is. So we know it's secure. Yep, we're not gonna ride off at high speed and have it flying all over the place. And then here's the charger. So it sounds like all the Bulls bikes for 2018 come with the 4 amp charger from Bosch. Bosch also has a compact 2 amp charger. It just takes longer. So this thing's pretty great. 1.7 pounds, relatively compact. You can imagine having like a little bag on the back of your bike and you can just toss it in, or maybe a pannier. It works out really well. And now we can talk about the display. So I'm gonna turn it back on. Sweet. This is the Bosch Purion. It's a little bit smaller, keeps the dashboard, this cockpit area really clean, but it doesn't offer quite as many readouts or features as the Intuvia. It's a bigger display, and you can pay some shops to sort of upgrade and get that extra hardware. The benefits of the Intuvia is that it's removable. It has a functioning micro USB port, so you could charge stuff from it. It's adjustable angle, so you could reduce glare. It's bigger, so you can see it from further away like this. And it has readouts like average speed, maximum speed, timer, things that just didn't fit on the Purion. It even has shift recommendation, which helps you to be efficient in how you're riding. So the display here shows speed in miles per hour, but if you hold minus and tap power, you can switch to kilometers per hour, which is kind of neat. And then in the middle, this has a bunch of different readouts. Right now we're in total distance, which is odometer. If I hold minus, it says, okay, range. And then it says assist level, so there are 4 levels. We're in turbo right now, but I can take it down to sport, tour, or eco, and even off. And you can ride this just like a sort of a heavy bicycle, but it's very efficient. It actually feels pretty comfortable on flats especially. So then we hold it one more time and it would take us to trip distance. So those are the different like trip stats. Then there's a battery infographic with 5 ticks. Each tick is a 20% increment. And that leaves something to be desired. It'd be nice if that was like a battery percentage, a little bit more precise. But coming back to that range readout, that's where you really get a little bit more precise. So right now it says 67 miles. We're not even fully charged, and that's what it's estimating based on the battery capacity, the assist level, and my actual riding over the last mile. So it's, I'm a 135-pound guy. I'm pedaling, pretty efficiently, and it's saying, okay, Court, if you keep riding like this, you expect to get about 67 miles in eco. And if I take it all the way up to turbo, it says, okay, maybe 24. So you can see that it drastically drops. And again, part of that's going to be based on whether you're above 20 miles per hour or not, because the wind resistance and stuff really starts to kick in. So I think that's a pretty good show and tell. I might hop on the bike. I'm going to demo it in turbo mode because I think it's the most pronounced. You're going to hear that motor the most and just get an idea of what it could sound like and how quickly it responds. There's that kickstand up and out of the way. And again, I'm in the lowest gear right now, so I'm going to spin pretty fast. Nice. One of the things I noticed about these plastic fenders is you can bump them and they don't get bent up. They're not going to rust like steel fenders would, but they're a little bit noisier. Like if I go over a curb here and then the grass. Not terrible, but just something to be, that's one of the trade-offs. And I'm going to do some shifting now, and you can listen for shift detection, and we'll go a little faster. We're easily up to 20 miles per hour, 22, 23, no hands. It's feeling pretty stable. Single-handed braking, no problem. And we've got some cobblestones up here. I'm gonna ride over those and do the fender noise again for you. Not bad. And then my body position. Definitely more upright, feeling very comfortable. Okay guys, once again we are on the medium size 50 centimeter frame. mounted to the seat post at this point, and you can see kind of see where the chain would go into that 22-tooth sprocket. Keep in mind it spins 2.5 times for every single crank arm revolution, so you're going to see that chain going really fast, but hopefully also stopping really quickly when I stop pedaling. Then we've got the 10 sprockets in the rear, 11/36 tooth. I'm going to just ride, start, stop, shift some gears so you can get an idea of what this thing sounds like, how it performs. Pretty awesome. I'm coming on this review just off of an active line motor, and I can definitely tell the difference. There's a big step up in terms of the zippy feel, the power. It's a lot of fun to ride faster, you know, if you're feeling confident in your riding skills and maybe just trying to go further, commuting to work or something. This could be a really good option. Okay, we're just gonna head back and maybe give you a perspective of that suspension fork and just what it feels like to ride at higher speed. We just climbed a pretty steep hill, going about 17 miles per hour. It felt very comfortable. I was down in like the second lowest gear, so again, there isn't as much low range for climbing like a mountain bikes, but I don't know if you need it. I was definitely using the higher gears to hit and maintain that almost 28 miles per hour. The motor kind of fades out. One of the other cool things about the Bosch motor, the Performance Line, is that it supports you up to 120 RPM, so you can spin faster, which is my preference as someone who likes to road bike, and I have a sensitive knee, so spinning faster means I don't have to push it hard, and I can rely on the motor and just kind of like get some exercise and get some kind of cardio workout. Well guys, I think that's about it. That's the Bulls Cross Mover Speed for 2018. For the full write-up on this, including all the measurements on the medium-sized frame that I talked about, comments, photos, community and stuff, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, chime in if you have any questions or maybe some feedback if I got something wrong here. I always appreciate the help, trying to get it right on. Have fun out there, ride safe.